I have spent the last 48 hours reviewing classified operational reports, Ukrainian SSO telegram dispatches, Maxar satellite imagery analyses, and declassified Western intelligence assessments, and what I am looking at is not a battlefield skirmish. What I am looking at is the systematic, deliberate, and surgical dismemberment of Russia's most sophisticated air defense architecture, executed not by F-35s, not by Patriot batteries, not by a NATO combined air operations center, but by small, cheap, domestically produced Ukrainian FP-series attack drones. Here is what the mainstream media is either refusing to say or simply does not understand. This is not one event. This is a campaign. A methodical, intelligence-driven attrition campaign targeting the nervous system of Russia's Black Sea air shield, the S-400 Triumph network, and it has been unfolding since at least June 2025, accelerating through September, October, November, and into February 2026. The headline you saw today about Ukraine destroying S-400 assets in Crimea is the visible tip of an operational iceberg that has been grinding beneath the surface for nearly a year. What is being missed entirely is the compounding nature of the damage. On June 26, 2025, Ukraine's HUR Ghost unit destroyed two 92N2E multifunctional fire control radars, two 91N6E long-range surveillance radars, and a launcher. On September 30th, SSO drone units surgically struck the primary radar station of another Triumph battery near Feodosia. On October 6th, FP2 drones eliminated an additional launcher and an ammunition depot near Simferopol's outskirts. On November 15th, the SBU's Alpha Special Operations Center blew a confirmed hole in 4 launchers and 2 critical radars at the Cuban Red Banner Regiment position near Novorossiysk. Russia's fallback Black Sea hub after Crimea became untenable. And on February 25th, 2026, Ukraine's Middle Strike Unit confirmed the destruction of yet another S-400 launcher, a 92N6E radar, and a Pantsir S-1 close defense system, the very system tasked with protecting the S-400 itself. This is a systematic decapitation of Russia's multi-layered Black Sea air defense, and not one Western outlet is connecting the dots. I am connecting them right now. Stay with me, because what comes next will fundamentally change how you understand this war and what it means for your energy portfolio and your global supply chain by the end of this quarter. To understand why the destruction of the S-400 network in and around Crimea is a seismic event, not a footnote, requires understanding the geography and physics of the Black Sea theater, because the geography is the strategy. Crimea is not simply occupied territory. It is a strategic peninsula projecting approximately 200 kilometers into the Black Sea, positioned at the geographic center point between Russia's southern military district and its maritime commerce arteries. Russia transformed Crimea following its illegal 2014 annexation into what military planners term an access and area denial node, an A2AD fortress. The S-400 Triumph batteries deployed across the peninsula were not placed defensively. They were placed offensively in the strategic sense, designed to deny Ukraine, NATO, and any adversary the ability to operate aircraft, cruise missiles, or drones across a significant volume of the Black Sea airspace. At full operational capacity, a single S-400 battery equipped with its full radar suite, the 96L6 acquisition radar, the 91N6E panoramic surveillance radar, and the 92N6E fire control radar, can detect airborne threats at ranges approaching 600 kilometers and engage aerodynamic targets at ranges up to 380 kilometers. Multiple overlapping batteries create a layered dome of coverage that is, in theory, near impenetrable to conventional strike packages. The operative phrase there is in theory. That doctrine was written for a peer adversary conducting massed sorties, F-15Es, Su-35s, cruise missile salvos. What it was not designed to defeat is what Ukraine has deployed: swarms of low observable, terrain-hugging, radar-diffuse FP-series drones flying low-altitude ingress profiles that compress the S-400's engagement timeline to near zero. This is the fundamental constraint the physics impose. The S-400's radar architecture is optimized for high-altitude, high-speed targets. Across the flat, maritime-adjacent terrain of Crimea's steppe and coastline, low-altitude radar coverage is degraded by ground clutter, atmospheric refraction, and the curvature of the Earth. A drone flying at 50 meters above the Black Sea surface or the flat Crimean steppe can remain below the radar horizon until it is already within terminal range of its target. By the time a ground-based radar operator can build a track solution, cross-reference it against a threat library, generate an engagement order, and attempt an intercept, the kinetic payload has already arrived. Traditional Western doctrine in this same theater would call for standoff strikes from naval aviation or long-range cruise missiles, assets that carry enormous political and financial costs, require massive enabling infrastructure, and generate significant escalation risk. Ukraine has inverted that calculus. By deploying distributed, cheap, highly precise strike assets that exploit the physical geography of the theater, Kiev's Special Operations Forces have turned the S-400, the crown jewel of Russian integrated air defense, into a stationary, expensive, and increasingly blind target. Russia's Black Sea air shield was not penetrated at its strongest point. It was attacked precisely where the geography, physics, and doctrine intersect to create unavoidable vulnerability, and Moscow had no answer for it. The operational architecture behind Ukraine's S-400 destruction campaign reflects a level of strategic sophistication that demands clinical analysis. This was not improvised. It was deliberate, intelligence-driven, multi-phase warfare engineered to exploit specific systemic vulnerabilities inside Russia's integrated air defense structure. The FP-series strike drones, FP-1 and FP-2, are Ukrainian domestically produced loitering munitions and attack UAVs. They are inexpensive relative to their targets by several orders of magnitude. A complete S-400 Triumph system carries an estimated market value of approximately $1 billion. The FP-2 drone costs a fraction of that, in the low tens of thousands of dollars range. This is the core asymmetric equation. Ukraine is liquidating billion-dollar assets with weapons that cost what a mid-range pickup truck costs. The operational math is irrefutable. Russia cannot regenerate destroyed S-400 batteries at a rate that offsets the destruction tempo Ukraine is sustaining. What distinguishes Ukraine's campaign is not just the hardware, it is the kill chain. Every successful strike began with a human intelligence penetration. Ukraine's Atesh partisan network, a clandestine organization of Ukrainian citizens operating inside occupied Crimea, provided persistent ground truth surveillance on Russian air defense positions. Atesh reported drone attacks hitting Russian air defense facilities near Simferopol as early as June 13, 2025. That confirmed targeting data was then fused with overhead imagery from commercial satellite providers and electro-optical reconnaissance from UAV overflights, generating precise geodetic coordinates for every radar component and launcher. Only after a targeting package was validated through multiple independent intelligence streams was a strike mission authorized. To understand the military significance, it is essential to break down what exactly was destroyed. The S-400 is not a single weapon. It is an integrated engagement system consisting of multiple interlocking components, each of which is operationally irreplaceable without the others. The 91N6E Big Bird panoramic surveillance radar provides 360-degree airspace coverage and initial target acquisition at long ranges. The 92N6E Gravestone multifunctional fire control radar takes over at closer ranges, providing simultaneous track and guidance for multiple interceptor missiles against multiple targets. The 96L6 Cheeseboard acquisition radar provides a supplementary track layer, particularly for low-altitude threats. Ukraine's primary HUR unit on December 13, 2025, destroyed both a 39N6 Kasta 2E2 radar and a 96L6, the precise radar component that provides the S-400's low-altitude tracking capability. HUR's own statement was unambiguous. The eyes of Russia's so-called Triumph were torn out. Without its radar suite, an S-400 launcher is nothing more than a $500 million parking lot fixture. The missiles remain inert. They cannot acquire, cannot track, cannot engage. Ukraine has understood this technical reality with precision and has systematically targeted the sensing architecture rather than attempting to attrit the more numerous launcher vehicles. Perhaps the most operationally revealing detail of the February 25, 2026 strike is the concurrent destruction of the Panzer S-1 system that was positioned specifically to protect the S-400 battery against low-altitude drone threats. The Pantsir S-1 is a close-in air defense system with combined autocannon and short-range missile armament designed precisely to engage the type of small UAV threat that Ukraine has deployed. Its destruction alongside the S-400 components it was guarding represents a compound tactical failure. It means Ukraine's drone operators have successfully developed attack profiles and saturation sequencing that can suppress the close defense layer before engaging the primary target. That is not luck. That is engineered tactical doctrine. Western intelligence assessments noted a critical downstream consequence of the Crimea and Novorossiysk losses. Russia has been forced to redeploy S-400 batteries from Kaliningrad, the Baltic exclave that serves as Moscow's primary force projection node against NATO's northeastern flank, to backfill losses in the southern theater. This is a zero-sum capability redistribution. Every battery transferred south to cover Black Sea gaps is a battery no longer covering the Gulf of Finland or the Baltic approaches. NATO's air operations planners in Brussels are watching this reallocation in real time. The degradation of Russia's Black Sea integrated air defense is not contained to the Black Sea. It is restructuring Russia's entire air defense posture across multiple theaters simultaneously. The tactical success in Crimea is generating strategic effects that cascade far beyond the peninsula itself. The destruction of Russia's S-400 network in Crimea and Novorossiysk is not an abstraction for defense analysts. It carries direct, measurable, and immediate consequences for global commodity markets, maritime insurance pricing, energy supply chains, and the geopolitical architecture underpinning what remains of the post-Cold War international order. The macro investor watching this conflict from Singapore, London, or Houston needs to understand the following variables. Novorossiysk is not simply a Russian naval fallback position. It is the primary crude oil export terminal for Russian Black Sea shipments, handling a significant percentage of Russia's Urals crude production destined for global markets. The November 15, 2025 combined Ukrainian operation struck both the S-400 battery, protecting Novorossiysk, and the Sheskharis oil terminal simultaneously. Satellite imagery confirmed damage to loading infrastructure, pipelines, and major berths, with no tankers at terminal on the day of assessment. Any disruption to Novorossiysk throughput directly affects the physical availability of Russian crude in the global market. With oil markets already under structural stress from Middle East supply uncertainty, a secondary disruption from the Black Sea corridor creates additive upward pressure on Brent crude benchmarks. Energy traders pricing in a sustained Ukrainian campaign against Black Sea infrastructure are not engaging in speculation. They are reading the operational reporting accurately. Lloyd's of London and the Joint War Committee formally designated Black Sea waters as a war risk zone following Russian escalation in 2022, triggering war risk insurance premiums that added hundreds of thousands of dollars per voyage to vessels transiting the region. The collapse of Russia's air defense umbrella over the Black Sea fundamentally alters the threat calculus for commercial shipping, but not necessarily in the direction of reduced risk. Russian retaliatory doctrine, unable to prevent Ukrainian drone penetrations through air defense means, is likely to manifest as increased pressure on maritime commerce through alternative coercive instruments, naval mining, surface interdiction, or intensified missile attacks on Ukrainian port infrastructure at Odessa and Pivdeny. War risk premiums are therefore unlikely to decline in the near term. Underwriters will price increased volatility, not reduced threat. Shipping costs remain elevated, and that cost is transmitted directly into the landed price of every commodity transiting or originating in the region. Beyond immediate commodity pricing, the destruction of the S-400 in Crimea carries a deeper geopolitical signal that will reverberate through every defense procurement negotiation held anywhere in the world over the next 5 years. Russia marketed the S-400 as the definitive, peer competitive, Western system defeating air defense platform. It was sold to India, Turkey, China, and several other state actors on precisely that reputation. Turkey's S-400 acquisition from Russia, which triggered NATO's suspension of Ankara from the F-35 program, was predicated on the system's invulnerability. That invulnerability has now been publicly, repeatedly, and irrefutably disproven by small, cheap, domestically produced Ukrainian drones. The reputational damage to Russia's defense export franchise is structural, not temporary. For macro investors, the defense industrial complex implications are significant. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and the broader Western defense technology industrial base are watching as asymmetric drone warfare, integrated with human intelligence networks, demonstrates a cost-exchange ratio that dismantles arguments for continued investment in legacy, expensive, high-signature air defense platforms across the board. The lesson of Crimea is not unique to Russia. Every integrated air defense system, including those operated by US-aligned states, faces a version of the same vulnerability. Cheap, distributed, low observable strike systems can attrit radar infrastructure faster than it can be replaced or defended. Capital is already beginning to flow toward counter-drone technology, low probability of intercept strike systems, and electronic warfare platforms. That reallocation has only accelerated. The investor who understands what happened in Crimea is positioned ahead of the wave. The investor who dismisses it as a regional conflict footnote is not. I want to leave you with the dilemma that I cannot resolve from this data, and I want your tactical assessment in the comments. Washington and its NATO partners are now watching Russia's S-400 network being systematically dismantled by the very state they were until recently considering abandoning. Ukraine has, without hyperbole, functioned as a live-fire laboratory that has generated more actionable data on peer adversary integrated air defense vulnerabilities than any NATO exercise in the past 3 decades, and the policy community has 2 distinct paths forward, neither of which is comfortable. Path 1, the West doubles down. NATO accelerates weapons transfers, long-range strike capability, and targeting intelligence support to Kyiv, allowing Ukraine to complete the decapitation of Russia's Black Sea air defense architecture. The strategic upside is a fundamentally weakened Russian southern posture and a demonstrated deterrent to other revisionist actors. The downside is that Putin, stripped of his air shield and facing domestic pressure, makes increasingly irrational escalatory calculations with assets that do not require radar systems to deliver. Path 2. The West pulls back. Ceasefire negotiations are prioritized. Ukraine freezes along current contact lines, and Russia retains enough of its reconstituted air defense infrastructure to stabilize and rearm over a 5 to 10-year horizon, returning to this contest with updated doctrine and a hardened industrial base. Neither path is clean. Neither path is without catastrophic risk. I want to know which you choose. Lay out your tactical rationale in the comments below. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button now and turn on notifications. Tomorrow's briefing goes deeper. You do not want to miss it.